there is a courage deficit in our society. A courage deficit. It ends up with a democratic deficit, but that's a complicated relation we may not have a lot of time to go into. But I'm going to save time for question and answer, because I'm here to learn and listen as well. Courage means not just elimination of fear, but the overcoming of fear, the acknowledgement that you're in a world of radical contingency, yet you're still willing to take a stand and to find your voice and not just be an echo, to pursue your vocation and not just a profession. Try to be an original, as I tell young people all the time when I'm in hip-hop studios. I walk in and I say, I've always tried to be an original, but I see too many copies. Because that's the road to success. I say, but life is not about success. I'm old school. I'm about greatness. What the Greeks call arete, excellence. And greatness has to do with something far beyond just market price. There's human values that go far beyond market price. It has to do with wrestling with that question of what it means to be human. So my conception of prophetic witness begins with the legacy of Athens. And yet at the same time, I move rather quickly to the legacy of Jerusalem. Very quickly. Why? In part because even given the great witness of Socrates, his love of wisdom, nowhere in any dialogue in which Socrates is rendered as a character or agent does Socrates ever shed a tear. And anyone who has never shed a tear has never loved concrete individuals. I cried at my mother's funeral, my dad's funeral, probably break down mom's funeral. I even cry when I got a divorce, but we won't go into that right now. It wasn't just for the money, it was the loss. Love has to do with taking us beyond the Socratic ideal of self-mastery and self-control. It has to do with something deeper, something more radical, something more overwhelming, as it were. And this is, for me, part of the genius of the legacy of Jerusalem that leads to our discussion about prophetic witness. Because it is our precious Jewish brothers and sisters who put forward, in the form of a moral revolution in the history of the species, to be human is to exercise hesed, loving kindness to the weak and vulnerable, the orphan and the widow, the fatherless and the motherless. Why? Because they formed a covenant with a God that heard their cry. Hebrew scripture begins with the cry of an oppressed people. And that God makes a covenant with those people hearing their cry and says, I will deliver you if you do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God. Profound fissure in the cultural and moral history of the human family to conceive of greatness in the form of service to others, service to the weak and vulnerable, and not only service, but finding joy in serving others. It's a radical move. Love thy neighbor as thyself, Leviticus 19:18. And then that particular Jew named Jesus, who means so much to we Christians, coming out of prophetic Judaism, saying, I will echo that same conception of what it is to be human, but I'll talk about love of neighbor and I'll talk about love of enemy. You can imagine the history of the world is like, this brother has lost his mind.